Is that? I've got right now, because my setup used to be really big. I had a few synths, but then I started traveling a lot. I even modified a synth that was really big and like cut off the keyboard, just to be able to take it with me without paying like shitloads of money to the airlines, because they charge like I don't know, what is it, $10 or €10 per kilo. So I mean, it's fine as long as if the promoter wants to pay, it's fine, but you have to pay it on the spot. So I always end up paying it. But now I have one synth on stage, and it's an analog mono synth. It has two oscillators, and it's got like really cool routing possibilities. I can modulate oscillator A with oscillator B, stuff like that. So I can have loads of fun with that, and it's not MIDI, but I actually use my sound card as a CV gate converter. Like all the old synths have a CV gate. It's like pre-MIDI. It's voltage controlled. And this guy wrote software for that, that you can just use your sound card as a CV gate. So the cool thing is, like all the old synths, not all of them, but they're not all very steady. Like they can get out of tune. So what this software does, it's called Silent Way from Expert Sleepers. It's actually just one guy who makes all this stuff. It's really amazing. If you want to get into analog gear, this is the way to go, because you have all these boxes that do MIDI to CV gates, but you can do it with your sound card now. And what it does is it sends out a CV gates channel that's like two channels, one CV, one gate. CV is like the pitch. Gate is like if you press it, yeah, it's like a timing thing. And what happens is it sends out these signals, and then you take the output of your synth and put it back in the sound card, and it reads what's it getting back. So it knows exactly how to pitch, to tune your synth. So all these old synths that were out of tune, a lot of them had problems with, if you would go over the scale, the C's weren't right, they were out of tune. And now with this software, it just tunes it. Yeah, because it knows that note is going to sound like this because it can hear it coming out. Kind of hard to explain, I think, but it's, if you want to get into old analog gear, that's the way to go. And I think analog gear is the way to go anyway, if you want to have a real instrument, because it doesn't have any menus, it doesn't have any I don't know, it's just a real instrument. Yeah.
What is the synth that you bring out now?
It's called Sequential Circuits Pro 1. Yeah, it's a synth from I think it's 1982. So it's not as old as I am, but it's pretty old. Yeah, and I used to bring out the SH-101 as well. It's like a Roland machine. And I'd like to add like a 303, because I use a 303 emulator, which is just fine, but I really like having the real machine. I just have to get the money to buy one. All right, anything you want to know about the live set?
How do you trigger stuff on Ableton? Like people use ATC 40s and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So what's exactly happening? They're just triggering clips, over each other.
Yeah. Let's see. What I try to do is not use too many channels, because then you have to kind of scroll left and right, and like the APC only has, I think, 8 horizontal, or how do you call it, rows? Yeah. So what I do is I try to just do like kick, snare, drums, and then 3 channels of whatever I want, and then software synth and hardware synth. And the hardware is coming back in the sound card, and then I can process this again. But the way I can use only these channels is with automation. So let's say this part right here, this clip sends out automation that says, let's see here, I make a matrix, that's what I call it. This whole thing, like every song has its own effects chain, and every clip can tell the chain tell the matrix which chain it should use. So that way you don't have to have all these channels. You know what I mean? It's kind of hard to explain. What I mean is
These clips could be separate songs as well, right? Like songs in themselves. Like if you're doing a DJ set or something.
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah. But these are just like samples, pretty much. Let's see.
So would it look like that if you're doing a DJ set? How would it look if you're doing a DJ set? Would these clips be songs?
I don't do a DJ set with Ableton, but yeah, you could. Yeah, it's just I never really DJ with this. I just do live sets. So this is all like all the remixes are broken down into like the hi-hats, the snare, and the different parts and the melodies. Yeah. Hold on. All right, I'll show you what I mean. So I can make this sample trigger like an effects chain just by I created the matrix right here. Now it's going through this because it's its own effects channel, and I can like use this is different for a different song. I don't know, it's hard to explain, but it's just a good way to use less channels, but as much as effects as you like, because you can like tell a clip, just one clip, to go through any of the chain you have here. If that makes sense, it's probably like a far out answer to your question, maybe.
So you're using that sample you just played across different songs in your live set. You just have it sort of mixed and affected differently.
Yeah. I can choose to go through any effect chain here by automating it, just in the clip itself. Yeah, you should check out the chain. The effects chain is really a cool thing to work with. Any more questions about the live set? Yeah.
So when you're putting all of your tracks together in all their different pieces, you've got your hi-hats, your snare, your different, some synths and stuff like that. Does that, how do you make sure that it sounds as good as it does when it's, after you send it to mastering and they send it back to you in like the stereo master channel? Are you just playing the different parts and like kind of hard limiting it? Or?
It's never gonna sound like a mastered version. It's just impossible, I think. Like the bigger acts, of course, will like Orbital. They'll have a sound guy who does the whole like the mix, just like a band. They'll just send out like the snare and everything separately, and then they'll have a mix guy who does everything. But it's just like people like me. I just send that. Like on this project, I just go to the master. But for a long time, what I did is I took all these tracks, like the kick, the snare, the drums, and then the synths, and sent them to a sound card with like 10 or 12 outs, and just did the mix on an analog Mackie on stage. Because of course every venue kind of sounds differently, and you have to be able to adjust it. And I think that's harder to do within the software, because then you have to have a controller to do the EQing for the snare or for the drums, and that's just a lot more work, I think, than if you have like a 16-channel Mackie. You just route it through there, and if you want more bass on the bass, you just like twist the knob. And I think the Mackie, like, they have it everywhere. So everywhere I went or everywhere I go, I just ask for the same mixer. So you really get to know the machine as well, and I have it at home as well. So that's probably like the way I want to work. Yeah.
I'm sorry, what was the Mackie one?
A 16-channel Mackie. Yeah, it doesn't have to be 16-channel, of course, but that's the one. Well, in Europe they have it everywhere. Like every club has it, every venue has it. So, and it's cool because you can also use it like as a mixer, and you've got all your tracks going into that, and you can like mute things and get things louder and fade things out and solo things and stuff like that. So yeah. Any more questions about the live?
One more question about the analog sequencing stuff.
Yeah.
So you're sending, I mean, out of your main MacBook, you're actually sending out of like a headphone jack or something into an analog synth, and then coming back in. But
Using like an external sound card. I'm using a Motu, and I'm actually using the headphones out to control a synthesizer. Yeah, because it's like left and right. It's 2 channels. One is CV, one is gate, and the headphones go directly to the synth, and then the synth has one out, and that comes back into a mic, like a mic preamp. Yeah.
and then it goes into your mixer. Or does it come back in?
And then it comes back into the computer, and then I do, because it's like all of this stuff is pretty much digital, and then I've got this one hard analog synth running, and I like to do digital processing on it, just like get it so I can sidechain my external synth to the kick or something like this. You know what I mean? Yeah. It creates a bit of like a delay, but it doesn't really matter, to be honest. All right.
Did you say you use the APC for triggering?
No, I have to find a new solution now, because this is the live set I designed for the iPads, and I used it like, I don't know, 10 times, and now I decided it's not really my cup of tea, so I have to find something new, or just like ditch this whole project. I don't know. Yeah, but that's something I tend to do a lot, like put a lot of work into something, and then find out that it's not really working, and just start all over. But it's it's fun anyway. It doesn't matter. Like the ride has to be fun too. It's not about just the end result, because you'll find out so many things just by figuring out how you should do something. Yeah, that's how I work. This is the whole live set. And this goes out to the mixer, and you can mute and unmute things. And like all this stuff right here are the melodies for the external analog synth that I can use. And I'll hook up like a 707 to play around with, and like mute the drums that are in the project, and just have fun with like any machine I want. But the major structure of the live set is pretty much laid out, and don't shoot me.
So how do you trigger the samples? Are you using a controller?
in this in this scenario, everything's already like pre-programmed. Yeah.
So you wouldn't have to do anything when you just press play.
That's exactly what. That's not really true. Of course, you press play, um, but then you've got all these like synths to modulate and create. Um I wish I had it with me, but I wish I could show you.
So you use so the MIDI is already there, and you're using the analog filters to modulate the MIDI. That is that what's happening?
Um, I'm only in this project. I'm only modulating synths. So I've got one external synthesizer, which is the Pro one I told you about, the analog one. Then I've got a 303, which I have a controller for. I can modulate that and put effects on it. And then I've got the ARP, which is also a synth. Let's see. Mm, the Oddity, yeah. Of course, yeah. This is set up for like a 16-channel sound card, so you're not going to hear anything. But like I said, you can do a lot with modulation, like a lot. And like some people will call it cheating, but if you listen to bands and you listen to like 10 of their shows, if like a band is touring all the time, they'll play the exact same thing over and over again. And you know the songs are already structured before that. They just play it again and again and again. So I don't really see a difference between like what I'm doing. I'm also pre-programming structures and what they're doing. They're
I think on a band scale, there's more of a human element
Mhm.
involved.
That's exactly what you do with the modulation. Yeah. So if you have time, a lot of time to put in this modulation and creating and playing with the effects, for me that's really like a human thing. And like if I would just press play and not modulate at all, it would be really really boring. Um, and I can just like with twisting one filter or one effect, I can really steer people into like climaxing things, and it's really very powerful. And I think you have to have the time to do this on stage, modulate. And I think if you would have if you're in an electronic like a duo, someone could do the sequencing and someone could do the modulation. That would be completely awesome, because then you can go anywhere. Yeah.
These are auto mapped to your MIDI keyboard.
Yeah. 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 Well, I have a few controllers. Depending on how far I fly or where I go, I just take like a small one or a big one or a heavy, and that doesn't matter.
In this kind of setup, with you modulating everything all the
Mhm.
time, is it easy for the mix to get away from you easily? Like, or is everything, or do you have to EQ other things?
Yeah, I do that all the time. Yeah, so because like I said, every venue sounds differently. So in some cases, I have to just like get the snare at the. It's not just the volume, but some systems are pretty sharp.
So would you have the Mackie for something like this too?
Yeah. I'll have the Mackie to do the mix on stage, and I can mute things out. And yeah, sometimes I'll bring uh, like an echo or something, and I'll send it, and I'll play with that as well. So and it's not. I'm very busy when I'm doing this. I mean, I'm focusing completely, and I have no time to do anything else. So it's of course it's just hitting play, but then you've got so much stuff to play with.
Do you use any of the onboard instruments, or like the drum rack in Ableton, or using any of the sounds that come with the program, or is everything you're using for the most part your own collection of synths that you have at home?
Um, I think what I did once is I deleted all the presets in Ableton, like everything, um, because that's what also what I do with my software synths. Um, First, I'll like mess around with it for a few hours or a day, and then like listen to all the presets and stuff like that. But then once I get into production or a creation of a track, it slows me down to have presets because I end up listening to them again and like playing a melody and just like click, 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 and I'll end up just listening and listening and not doing anything. So if you don't have any presets in a plugin, you're forced to find a sound that you like, and it's much more creative. But I went a bit overboard with the Ableton because they have, like, of course, like they have like a 606 kick drum, which is fine. It's not really a preset; it's a sample. So, but I deleted everything, and then I decided maybe I'll just get some back in there. Yeah. So, but most things are like either third-party plugins, like for the sound generation, and external machines, and sampled drums.
Like I've used like operator, but not a preset, and
Mhm.
design like my own synth and stuff. Like,
Exactly,
Do you,
yeah.
do you do anything like that with like the instruments itself, not the presets, but the actual?
Oh
instrument?
yeah, okay. Well, I like the analog. I think it's called analog. It's like a what's it called? Analog, yeah. That's a really easy thing to use, and what I use it a lot for just starting up things. Just like if you're making a melody, just use the analog, and but after a while, I usually replace it with a external synth. Yeah, I don't know why. Maybe it's just something personal. It would be like I did a collaboration with Shinichi Osawa. I don't know if anybody knows this guy, and he uses this analog all the time. So he bounced like tracks to me, and then I just used his the MIDI file like triggering the analog, and I just deleted the plugin and then got in like a real synth and recorded everything over again, and then it went back to him, and sometimes he likes it, sometimes he doesn't. So yeah, I do use them, but just not as much as other people probably.
Do you think it's like a sound quality thing, or is it just because it's just your taste, like you grew up
Yeah.
on analog? It just doesn't matter. Just
It's
whatever works.
yeah, it really, I mean, the plugins nowadays sounds amazing, and probably if you would come up to me with like a and B and like ask me to listen to like which one do you prefer, I wouldn't recognize the digital version or the analog. I wouldn't know. But it's just I prefer to work with instruments. It just feels better. Yeah, yeah. It's just by choice. Yeah, it just feels better.
I was seeing that you're using the compressor a lot for the side chaining. Do you usually always use the Ableton compressor for
Yeah,
the side chaining?
yeah. It works perfectly. All it really does is just brings down the volume um, in like when you're side chaining. Just kind of yeah. It's fine. Um, I never actually used anything else in Ableton to do the side chaining.
The Ableton gate actually
Oh yeah,
really cool for side chaining.
the gate.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I use the gate, but not for side chaining. Yeah. All right. All right.
So when you want to extend or shorten a part of the live set, do you set like your loop brackets and stuff and just kind of hang out in there?
No, I just like go in there and delete things, and it's quite easy. Like I use the shortcuts. Like if I want to make this whole thing shorter, I just use Shift Command D, delete, I think, and it just takes out the whole piece of this time. If it, yeah, see, just yeah. I delete more than I add in the live sets because you start to notice that some parts are too long, and usually things are too long, like especially in the live sets. But like I said, some people call this cheating, but it's actually really cool to learn structures for tracks as well, because you're making this huge track, right? And it has to work, and it's like for people have to dance to it, and so when you're making all these structures, you're learning how tracks have to work. Like, don't make this too long. Don't make this too long. For me, it's a big help. But like I said, I'm not gonna do this anymore. I think I want to get back to sequencing. Yeah, now that I have this whole modulation under control. Yeah, because it's really important. Like if you can leave a synth melody running the whole time, and it's gonna be really boring unless you do something with it. Yeah. All right. Is everybody okay with how things are going? Because I've never done this before, and I was like I get really nervous for like 20 people. You can put me on a stage for like thousands, and I won't be nervous at all. But then like for this, it's like. Whew. I'll talk about collaborations. Is anybody interested in that? Yeah. Okay, cool. So I've done a few. Some didn't work. The ones that did work were over the internet, and this is something really cool. I think I did like my first collaboration that really worked with was with Shinichi Osawa, and he was in Japan and I was in Belgium. So the time difference is about I don't even know, like 10 hours or something. And we never met before. So this was just this guy. I never even talked to him on the phone. And his even like to get the collaboration going, I didn't even talk to him. I talked to his management, because in Japan they're kind of like everybody has a manager and that manager has a manager. That's how it feels. So you never really get to talk to the artist until you really start working. So he sent me just like this idea of what he wanted to do. And I was pretty, excited, but maybe a bit too excited, because I deleted pretty much everything he did, like all the sounds I rearranged and re-recorded, and so, and after like sending it to him, I was thinking, oh shit, maybe I insulted him, but he really liked it. So then after like a couple of emails back and forth, I got the chance to go to his studio in Japan and finish the thing off, which was really cool. But this was just one track, and then that was in like 2 weeks. Yeah, because I was like there wasn't that much of a pressure on it, and we had the time. And then I went to the studio in Japan, and then we did just like half, we finished it off in one evening. But he really knows what he's doing. So I learned a lot too. And then we did another one, but that was an album. And that was we knew we had to do it, but I was really like a lot of things were happening in my life, and I didn't realize that the deadline was coming closer and closer and closer. And at one point they said, "Look, you still have 2 weeks to make this album," and we didn't really have anything. So um, at that time, I just said, okay, fine. I'll just work all day, all night, and I just put on my headphones because I think sometimes it's not good for your ears, but you get into this zone easier. But you have to be careful because I really messed up my ears with the bass, with working too much with the headphones. But so we did finish like a whole album in less than 2 weeks, I think, and that's where um, all the failed remixes came in handy because I could just like get them out and send them to him, and he would do something with it. So some of the tracks are just like the Chili Gonzalez remix is actually on that album, but it doesn't sound anything like the Chili Gonzalez remix. But I had this stuff just laying around, and he doesn't even know, I think. No. um, um, it's the one with, I forgot the name. The one with the speak and spell voice. I don't even have it on this computer, I think.
You said that you had some collaborations that didn't go well.
Yeah, just with friends that I've known for a while, and then it's always, yeah, we got to do this and we got to do this, and then we end up sitting in the studio, and like there's someone who has to operate the computer, and like you don't really know who's doing it, and I always ended up doing everything, and just like with this other guy sitting next to me and like pointing at the screen sometimes, like I would do it like this, but it just has to, I don't know, you have to be on the same level, I guess. But I'd like to do more. Let's see. All right, that was a remix for this. Yeah. So you can see why they didn't really get it. Like, Errol just like, oh, this is nothing like the original. So, but this ended up in the iPad commercial, so I kind of missed out on that. I should have been like a bit more considerate. Yeah. So yeah, kind of went wrong, but in the end, I just dug it up again, and it ended on an album. So I'm happy. It's Chili Gonzalez's loss, I guess. All right. All right. So that's collaboration, right? Anybody else questions about this?
Any upcoming ones or people you'd like to work with?
I'm doing a new one with Shinichi. Yeah. So, I mean, it's an easy choice. He sent me a mail a couple of days ago. I should send him like some ideas, but I don't know like which ones I want to send him because I want to like keep the good stuff for just my own solo stuff, and I think I'll just make new stuff because now we don't really have a time frame or there's no deadline, so I can do what I want.
So with Shinichi, did you guys just send back, audio files back and forth, or were you working in the same
Yeah. Um, we were working in Ableton, and that's one of the reasons why I'm working more in Ableton as well, because everybody's using it. And before that, I was using Logic a lot more. And then when they asked me to do the collaboration, he was using Ableton. So if I would be using Logic, we would have to bounce down all the tracks every time, and that would be so much work just for nothing. And so I started using Ableton much more. And what you do is you send have like a sound, what's it called, Dropbox or something like this, and just whenever you, what I do is, let's see, this is not really collaboration, but I just got a friend to check things out and see what he would do with a track. This is something I sometimes do too, because when you're working on a track for a long time, you kind of lose perspective. Yeah, I think everybody knows this. Yeah. So what I do now is just get the project. Actually, have a second laptop, an old one, which is running the exact same system as I run on this one, and I've got this synchronization between the two, and I'll just load everything on that laptop and just give him the laptop, and then he'll do whatever he wants, and just get back to me, and I'll synchronize the laptops again, and I'll have his version on my computer, and I'll just like you see here, version 1.4 Maxim. So that's the guy's name, and then next one's me again, and the next one's him again, and the next one's me again, and then he kind of gave up, so I went further. But that's a good way to do collaborations, I think. You really have to manage your files, otherwise you lose stuff and you don't know which versions, who's done what, and but this is easy to do. Even like I said, I'm just giving him the laptop, but you could easily put like this folder could be a folder on your Dropbox, and then you just open up the last version, work in it, save it with your name, and then tell him like I'm done, and the other guy can open it up from his Dropbox because it's synchronized anyway, and just save it under his name, and that's actually a really nice way to work. Yeah, that's how I do it. Polish House Mafia. I don't know what that is. Okay, I'm not going to find out now. Any questions about collaborations anymore? Is anybody doing collaborations here? Yeah, you. Yeah. Yeah, but you always work together. Okay. Okay, yeah. Okay, cool.